Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for joining this next episode of In the Nick of Time. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes with Sam joining us from SBIR Advisors to help us navigate the challenges and pitfalls around SBIRs and how to engage with the Department of Defense as a startup or smaller company getting into the federal space. So stay tuned. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for joining this next episode of In a Nick of Time. We're so excited today. We have Sam joining us from SBIR Advisors. Sam is a game changer. He's been able to help so many companies and organizations to get into the Department of Defense and get after these magical SBIRs. And if you don't know what they are, it's going to be a great discussion today for you to find out and see the value they can bring. In fact, Asage, my company, has been partnering with SBIR Advisor to go after some SBIR direct to phase two. So hopefully, fingers crossed, and we're gonna get some good news in a couple of months. But you have phase ones, you have phase twos. How do you navigate the SBIR sitters and so on? It's going to be a great discussion. And of course, if you have questions for Sam, make sure you get started now because we have a lot of questions already from social media. So start with a Q in the comment section below. We'll be able to take your question live as well at the end of the show. If you've not registered to the show yet, do that by going to inanicoftime.tv. You'll be able to put your email and get one email a week to notify you of the next episodes. Next week is going to be a great episode with Brian, the CEO of Unstrict, and I'm blanking on the name now. What is it? Unsubscribed. And you'll be able to see the discussion around how to bring all the content and APIs and PDFs and different document type into large language models with Unsubscribed and his new company that he founded about 6 months ago. We're using it in Asage to be able to ingest PDFs, Word document, Excel, and so on. So it's a great company, new startup, getting in a lot of traction. It's in fact it's already integrated into a lot of open source projects like LangChain and so on. So next week is going to be a great episode with Brian, the CEO of Unscripted. So see that next week. But do subscribe so you get notifications once a week for the next episode. Today is a special day. It's June 13th, and it's the birthday of my father, Bernard, and my dad. I wouldn't be here, and you wouldn't be here today without my father, who helped me back when I was 15 to create my first company back in France, and so wanted to wish him happy birthday. So everybody go on the comment section below and wish a happy birthday to my dad. So he's 67 now. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, how time flies. Born in 1956 back in France. So happy birthday, and this is a special day today. So with that, let's bring I have to give you my little speech about Asage. Wouldn't be doing my job otherwise. If you've not tried Asage yet, but I'm sure you have, but if you haven't, go to asage.ai, go create an account. We have about 4,000 government teams, 850 companies now using Asage. A lot of great engagement, custom plugins, agents, integrations with APIs, database, and so on. And so it's been pretty amazing to see that we've been able to help so many teams, accelerate their time. Often 10x returns, pretty amazing in acquisition, development, intelligence gathering, you name it, categorization, summarization of data. So go try it out at sage.ai. Go create an account for free. $30 a month, save you a bunch of time. Goes all the way up to CUI. We're working with DoD CIO DISA and DoD CDAO for the L5 ATO in DoD, but other agencies have already completed their review. We have a full ATO package for you to review. So reach out to us if you want to get the ATO package. We're fully CMMC compliant. So if you're a company that's doing work, bidding on projects, we reduced on average from 2 to 5 days to write an RFP response down to 30 minutes. Pretty amazing. All our bids are written by Asage. In fact, I completed our GDPR assessments and documentation with Asage in 2 hours. That would have taken easily, 2 weeks. And we just also completed all the mapping, not only with the NIST 800, 171, 172 controls, but also 853 controls, so 1,200 controls. And Asage helped us by giving it all the mapping of our cyber posture and controls, and getting back all the NIST controls mapped with all the implementation details based on our documentation that we have already created. So it's pretty amazing. So it's been saving me a lot of time, that's for sure. I don't Google anymore. I just use Sage, and Sage integrates with Bing and Google, and of course custom data sets, APIs, and so on. So it's pretty amazing. So go check it out. With that, I wanted to welcome Sam in a minute. Sam served as a contracting officer in the Air Force, working for the Special Operations Command in New Mexico and Afghanistan, and then as an offensive cyber acquisition where he helped stand up Unify platform and level up with us when I was still in the building. What's pretty amazing there is you can tell that the special ops guys that understand the mission and the urgency and there's no complacency there. There's no room for it, and they get stuff done. They really understand the importance of acquisition and how to make things happen for our warfighters. So I think this is the perfect type of person that can give us a little bit of insight as far as how to get it done, both from the inside and from the outside. He separated from the Air Force in 2019. That was a big loss for the Air Force, obviously, but what he's been able to do from the outside has been a game changer. I've yet to see any company has the type of impact that SBIR Advisor has been providing to dozens, if not hundreds, of startups to do business with DoD. He's a founder of SBIR Advisors and has helped already nearly $500 million for his small business client. That's a pretty impressive number just in a few years. I don't think that's something easily achievable by anybody else. So that tells you it's not just about talking all day; it's also about getting things done. And so, very excited to have Sam on the show today. Welcome to the show, Sam.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. An honor to work with you again. And happy birthday to your dad.
Yes, it's interesting because I created my first company back in France. I was 15, and until you're 16 in France, you're not able to be a CEO unless you go through emancipation and all that nonsense, and it takes forever anyway. So by the time you get it, it's already beyond the age limitation. So my dad was able to become the face of the company, while waiting for me to turn 16. I mean, he was just a pretty face, but the fact is, I would not have been able to create the company, and that company led to the 13 companies I've done after that, and honestly, if I had to wait even the 10 months of time, waiting for this to happen, who knows what would have happened. So, I guess we can all thank him also for all the stuff he's done with me, because I was able to do all the stuff I've done after that, thanks to his sacrifices and effort. So I'm pretty excited. It's 50. It's kind of crazy when you think of he's 67, almost like an old man now, right? It's crazy how time flies. When
That's
I
awesome.
was 15, obviously that was a different time. I'm 38 now, so time flies. Anyways, thank you for the kind words. Over to you first, always, for your journey before we start digging into all the questions. And we got hundreds of questions from social media. So, by the way, people, if you have questions, make sure you start with a Q. So we know it's a question. We already got a few here, but we have about 150 from the Twitter and the LinkedIn and YouTube comments. So let's get started now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you said it. I mean, I think you nailed it. The Special Operations Command was just a joy to work with. I mean, it really felt like we're running with the wolf pack there, best of the best. And it was really cool to be that close to the mission and tied into the warfighter. Like, things we were buying was having a real impact because they would use it in the field the next day. So that I love that part about working with AFSOC. Came back from Afghanistan and they said, well, if you like that fast-paced environment, you should go to offensive cyber. So I came here to San Antonio, which was great timing for my family, but love the location. I got my top secret clearance, so I was excited to see some potentially alien technology. I got back there and it couldn't have been farther from it. I got behind what they call the green door, the bunker, and got to see what we're working with and realized, to my dismay, we're about a couple decades behind our commercial partners or near peer competitors. And so that was kind of sad to see, but it wasn't the cyber guys' fault. I got in there and was really trying to figure out, what's going on, guys? Why are we working with Stone Age stuff here? And it's not the cyber guys. They're super capable. And it was actually, looking internally, it was my fault. It was contracting's fault. We were taking way too long to buy stuff, and it was causing us to lose an arms race. And so in the 9 to 12 months it would take us to put something on contract, a new iPhone generation would come out, or whatever we had planned to exploit would already been patched, and so it was obsolete by the time we bought it. And it was frustrating, to say the least, to go from moving fast and SOCOM, and then to move to offensive cyber to do that. So I did my best to do some market research and figure out, okay, what's out there that we really need to get the warfighters that could be game changing. And from what I saw, a lot of it was coming from Silicon Valley type startups, where innovation is out there in the VC and startup community. So I'd reach out to them. I'd say, hey, I want you to bid on this RFP that's coming out. And they wouldn't want to. They didn't want to wait 9 to 12 months for a contract. They couldn't put up with those sales cycles, or they didn't want to put up with all the bureaucracy and red tape that came to working with the DoD. So, saddened me to see that happen. And I wanted to change that, because I really feel like if we didn't get that technology into the hands of the warfighter, we might be disrupted in the next war. And so trying to figure out, how do we get startups more involved into the Department of Defense? And in 2019, I was up for another deployment back to Afghanistan. Decided it was time to get out. I had a baby on the way, but I wanted to stay close to this mission of helping get great technology to the warfighter. And so started working with startups from 2019 and trying to really figure out, okay, what is your root cause of your problems when it comes to working with DoD? And that's what got us here today. So left in 2019, started working with tech startups, helping them do business with the government. And now SBIR Advisors is a team of 35 full-time employees, all former acquisition officers, most of us with clearances, but all veterans on the same mission of trying to get good tech to the warfighter.
Yeah, and a lot of great people. In fact, you've been able to help me with my SBIR Phase 2, and we're thankful. I know you're busy, and it's almost tough to get enough people, right, to go after all the engagements you have. And you got me a great helper, Autumn. She's been awesome. She's I mean, she's just awesome. She's been able to do a lot in a very short amount of time. We applied for this direct to Phase 2 SBIR. Hopefully we're gonna get it. We tried a Phase 1, and the Air Force felt maybe it was too early for us, but felt we were not doing enough on the commercial side. Now we have 850 companies using Sage, so hopefully that checked the box 2 months later. But timing is everything, right? So when you look at kind of your engagements, right, and you look at the challenges, right, for me it's been interesting, because for the first time I'm trying to engage the government. My 12 companies before Sage were not doing any work with the government. I couldn't care less. In fact, at the time I had no understanding of it. I didn't understand the mission. I didn't understand why would someone want to do this. No, I care, and no, like you, I want to make sure we have access to the best of breed capabilities. But when you look at all these startups, I'm sure you had the chance now to pretty much see everything. So what do you think are the top challenges that startup are facing?
Yeah, thank you. And great shout out to Autumn too. I mean, she's awesome. Our whole team is awesome. We've been very deliberate about bringing the best people we can find together. And I think that's key to a great consulting firm, right? Is having the best people. But we're lucky to work with some really great technology, like these tech startups. And so when you pair that together, great tech and great people, you've got a winning combo there. So yeah, great question. So I jumped in with these startups trying to figure out, okay, what is your number one challenge when it comes to working with DoD? And what I heard time and time again was, well, I don't know who my customers are, where they are, or how to find them. They're rarely hard to get a hold of. And it's kind of funny, you were asking me about what did I want sent out to your audience as far as how to reach me. And I just gave you my calendar link, said grab a time on my calendar, and you were like, "Are you sure? That's 1,000
Hey, you
people."
didn't tell me if you are sure. Are you sure? I'm gonna put the link now, so it's the last time you can
Yeah,
go
I'm
back
sure.
to it.
Yeah, I'm positive. I want to be like
I
radically
thought you were
available.
crazy. 1,000
Yeah,
people looking at your Calendly link. You may
it's
regret it after, but I warned you at least. Okay.
you did warn me, but that's the thing. Like DoD is so hard to get a hold of. They're so hard to reach, and that's some of the hardest parts is finding the right people and then getting in a room and getting to talk to them. And so, yeah, I'd love to be the opposite of that, be radically available to help startups. So for sure, share that link. And But so
He's
that was
coming.
the
You
problem.
ready?
It's like,
Right here. Here
there
you
it is.
go. Here's his
Exactly.
Calendly. If you want to book a one-on-one with Sam, he's
Yeah, I
crazy
look
enough to
forward
give
to
it
it.
to you. So,
Awesome. And so, that's been my whole goal, is solve that first problem, which is, who are my customers? Where are they? How do I find them? So knew right away we had to work on helping the startup find who their ideal customers are, who would be the buyers of their technology, and then getting them in a room and doing the work to facilitate those meetings so that they can sit across the table and talk to, or in a Zoom call, talk to those would-be DoD customers and start to figure out their problems. What is the challenges that end user, that customer faces, and how can the startup's technology, that's commercial, typically, how can we take that off the shelf commercial technology and adapt it to meet the DoD's needs and to help that warfighter? So that was the first problem. And then we did that, right? We started to get into the room with these customers, and we run into problem number 2, which was, hey, I love the tech. The DoD customer would hear the tech startups pitch, and they'd be like, "This is awesome. I want this yesterday. Love the technology. Only one problem though, I don't have any funding." And that's often what we'd hear, is they say, I don't have any money. Come back to me next fiscal year. I might have money for you then. And of course, that's what leads to that 9 to 12 month long sales cycle. That was a challenge when I was in. So that's not a good answer for the big primes can wait 9 months, 12 months for a contract, but a tech startup can't. They need to show traction, to their investors. They're living quarter to quarter. And so we need to see sales move a lot faster there. And so when we've got that problem, we've got a customer now that's interested, says, come back to me next fiscal year. I'll have money for you then. That for me is where SBIR STTR came in. Is we said, okay, we got to find money. We've got to find funds to work with these customers today, not next year, but now, and bridge the gap between today and next year. And so that's where SBIR STTR came in for us, is it solves that second problem. And then the third problem is, maybe you found a customer and they say, you know what, you're in luck. I had another program that just canceled, or I've got extra budget laying around. I want to use this. Let's get started. And when you have that problem, now you've got a customer with money and they pass you over to contracting. Contracting is going to say, well, I don't know how to do business with this startup. They have no past performance. They're not on my favorite GSA contract or schedule, and they're not on my favorite IDIQ. And it's kind of an access problem. And so SBIR happens to solve that problem too, that if you've got a SBIR or STTR phase 1 or phase 2 contract, you have what they call phase 3 sole source justification. So you have this ability to go direct and do a sole source contract with anyone in the federal government if you've got that SBIR phase 1 or phase 2. So that phase 3 contract vehicle solves that third problem as well. So that really, to answer your question, those are the top challenges. Is let's find the buyers, let's find the people, then let's find the funding, and then let's find the right contract to get the funding on contract.
Yeah, you miss one that is actually very painful. I think is the accreditation process, right? And even after you get the money or whatever, clearly you get to see all this massive amount of work, right, to get your product accredited. What have you seen so far? Do you feel like it becomes an afterthought problem, or what's the vision there?
Sure. I mean, on the proposal front, like a lot of startups come into this and they kind of read the program wrong. And I was going to bring this up later when we're talking about pitfalls, but they come to the SBIR or similar R&D funding opportunities, and they see it as a way to get my product funded. Well, it's that funding is not for you. The funding is for the warfighter, and you've got to write your proposal to solve a warfighter need. And so writing the proposal in a way that's like, here, we're great, we're awesome, and we're the best thing since sliced bread. That's awesome, but it doesn't speak to what do you solve, what problem, what warfighter requirement are you solving. And so that's the biggest thing, is like, when it comes to writing the proposal, it's almost a different language and that the DoD uses. And you've got to speak to that language and speak to what are the requirements that you're actually solving. And that's where we can help out a lot too. And Ask Sage actually helps out a ton, because here's a large language model AI that's trained on government content, is trained on government speak, that other language. And so it's been very helpful as a tool for putting together those applications.
Yeah, and it's really helped me write all my my nests and my business disaster recovery and all my cyber planning, and accelerate that by at least 20x. It's pretty amazing. Um, when you look at, you know, okay, you found this interesting buyer, which is painful enough. So it's always interesting to me, right? How I realize now selling to DoD that it's almost like multiple sales into one deal, right? First you have to find the interested end user, then you have to find the money, then you have to find, the right process to get it accredited. It's almost like a never-ending sales cycle of nightmare maze, nonsense. And so what's after, you guys helping find the interesting buyer?
Yeah, sure. So let's say we're setting up all these calls or these meetings, and you get in front of this end user, you demo your product, and you've got a bite. They're really interested in the tech. What's next? And is, well, let's figure out how to get that on contract. Let's get in here and work with you. And the problem is, unlike commercial side where I could just say, here, click this link, take a free trial of my software, and try it out. Government can't accept free stuff, and so they have to have some kind of like contract in place, even if it's a CRADA type vehicle, that it does allow them to use free stuff. There has to be some kind of agreement on IP and things like that with the government. And so that's the challenge, is finding out, okay, we've got an interested customer, let's get them on contract. So second question then has to be, well, do you have money? Do you have money to start a contract today or don't? And if they don't have a contract, then okay, we're limited to a few options. We've got, I did mention CRADA, so we could get on an unfunded CRADA to do a proof of concept. But I'd prefer, and I think a lot of startups prefer, to have a paid proof of concept, get some revenue going. And the way we do that is with SBIR or STTR, and that can be from a phase 1 or phase 2. And in order to apply for those things, I need some action. I need some work from the government customer. And so I'm asking them to either sign some kind of letter of support to help sponsor our proposal into maybe a phase 1, or I need them to sign a customer memorandum to do a direct to phase 2. And a customer memorandum is a lot like a letter of support, but has a statement of work attached. It's a milestone saying, hey, we're going to go apply for $1.25 million, roughly, of SBIR money. What are we going to do if we get that money? And then so the milestone plan kind of spells that out. What's that work plan look like? And so those are the things to do if they don't have money. If they do have money, then we've got a whole other host of options. So, well, do we take it through an IDIQ contract, which is like a catalog type vehicle where only so many cool vendors are on this catalog? And the reason they might want to do IDIQ is because it's so much faster. Like usually a purchase order is in like 6 months, through an IDIQ, whereas it would be longer taking it to go public, and they publish the solicitation on Beta Sam or somewhere where everybody can see it, everybody can bid on it, everybody can protest it, and it takes a lot longer to go that way. And the third option is to figure out a way to go sole source. So I've got a customer with money, they don't want to go IDIQ, they don't want to go public. Let's figure out how we can go direct and do a sole source sale. Phase 3 is just one of the justifications to forego competition and go direct to the small business. Phase 3 means that you've won a SBIR phase 1 or phase 2 in your past, and that makes you phase 3 eligible. There's other ways, like 8A program is a great way, service disabled, veteran owned, certain set asides, those kinds of things. And there's different small business programs, all with pros and cons, but kind of helping to navigate which one's best for the company, the client, and then which one is the customer, the government contracting officer, most accustomed to using. And and the reason I'm asking that question is, which one are you more comfortable with, KO, contracting officer? is because I want this to get done. I want it to move faster, and if I'm trying to get them to do or try something new, it's like pushing a stone uphill. It's very difficult. So I want them to tell me what they're most comfortable with, and then we'll figure out a way to get on that kind of contract. And that might be through a distribution partner or reseller type thing. We work with a lot of those too.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So I guess for people that really, like me, I guess, never did much with the government, can you explain a little bit, but give us a little bit of what is SBIR all about? And some people are worried about the future of SBIRs. Are they gonna exist in 10 years? What's your take on all this? And can you tell us? You mentioned the phase 3 and the ability to not have to compete and all that stuff, direct to world, whatever. Can you explain the different phases and how much money are we talking about for each phase?
Yeah, I like it. So let's pull it back and just talk about SBIR a little bit. So SBIR was created in the 80s as this economic stimulus program. Congress mandated that basically 3.2% of R&D dollars has to go to the SBIR and STTR program. And so for the DoD, that's about $3 billion a year that's set aside for small business through the SBIR program. Now, the SBIR program, it has to be renewed by Congress like every 3 to 5 years. We just went through one of those in September of 2022, and they renewed it through 2026. And so we'll cross the next bridge when we come to it, September 2026. Congress will look at this again and say, okay, is this a successful or a good use of funds? And I think one of the things that's made it really changed the game and has really made it a successful acquisition program is the open topic. So back in the 80s when they created this program, there was only one way to do SBIR, STTR, and it was called special topics. Special topics are like a laundry list of super specific problem statements. And for those of you who are familiar with SBIR, maybe applied years ago, you've probably seen the list. It's a long list of things like build me a lightsaber. It's got to be 3 feet long, those kinds of things. It's super specific, usually quite ambitious problem. The problem with those special topics is that it's very difficult, for a company to align with one of those. So, maybe they probably don't build lightsabers, but even if they did, they're competing with a bunch of other companies who, have a similar solution to the same problem statement. So you've got this ambitious problem statement to begin with, and then you have this race to the bottom that competition creates, which is basically who can write the most ambitious white paper, who can out science project the other company. And what you ended up with is an R&D project that's super ambitious answer to a super ambitious problem. And the result was it spent a lot of time and money in the lab or in R&D, and it never transitioned to the warfighter. So under the old special topic, like less than 1% of technology was actually transitioning out of SBIR into phase 3. And so obviously probably not a good use of money spending all that time and effort if it wasn't making it to the hands of the warfighter. So around 2018, 2019, Dr. Will Roper at the time was in charge of Air Force acquisitions. He said, let's flip this whole thing on its head. Let's create the open topic and say, we don't know what our problems are. We're not going to tell you what our specific problem is anymore. And so this opened the door for companies to push their capability onto the DoD rather than wait for the DoD to pull through a very specific problem statement. And so now you have companies able to take whatever they're working on and try to get it funded through SBIR. And it allowed commercial technology to enter in that only needs to be adapted for DoD uses. So that open topic has been so successful with the Air Force since 2019 that in September of 22, when Congress reauthorized the SBIR program, they mandated that every agency has to have an open topic going forward. So we're seeing Navy has one coming up in like 2 months. We've already seen an Army open topic this year. Every agency is going to have to release an open topic. And I think that's really good because what that does is it takes real products that are much more ready to scale and much more ready to hit the field for the warfighter, and they just need adaptations to an example of like they call it dual use technology, right? So it's technology that has a use on the commercial industry side, but it can also be used on the military side. I mean, look at Ukraine and what's going on with commercial drones. You've got basically a COTS item that's being repurposed for DoD or defense use cases, and that's the idea. Is we want to take commercial technology, apply R&D funds to it, so that we have to adapt it in some way to justify the use of that R&D funding, the SBIR funding. But then what comes out the back end is a product that's much more ready to go, and it's been developed with a customer in mind. So how they do the open topic is they say, tell us what you think our problems are, what your solution is to fix it. And companies, push everything from pillows to satellites and everything in between. And it typically, like this last phase 1 round that just the Air Force closed in February, was about 2,000 proposals. And they're getting all these proposals in, and it's apples to oranges. How are you supposed to judge those different kinds of technologies against one another? You really can't. And also, you can't really staff 2,000 different engineers who are all experts in 2,000 different technologies. So they really don't even look at the technology. They look at a couple other things, which we'll get into later on. But basically, they pick 400 ideas that they're really interested in. Said, this is interesting. Here's phase 1 contract. Here's $75,000 and 90 days. Go validate that this is actually a need in the DoD. And so they're basically paying you $75,000 to conduct customer discovery for 90 days. Go out and find an end user, a customer that's interested in this product. And so they're paying for that proof of concept effectively. So these companies are going out and they're finding a customer. They're validating that there's a need. They're figuring out what are the adaptations that I need to make to my product for this to go forward with DoD. And then once they find that customer, they get that customer to sponsor the phase 2 through the customer memorandum, which is what I was talking about earlier. That customer signs a letter, says, I want to work with this company, and then they submit that with their proposal to phase 2. Phase 2 starts at around $750,000, can go up or down, based on budget. But it's for 12 months of working with this identified customer that you've ID'd during your phase 1. And so that 12 months of, about roughly $1 million is spent adapting your product, giving the customer, letting them get hands on your solution, provide feedback on how it could be better, what they need to see, and then they're actually making those changes. And so how we use that phase 2 and that $1 million is to bridge that gap between now and next year. So we've already found that customer who says, I love it. I want to use this product. I don't have money today, so come back to me next fiscal year. Well, we can tell that customer that's okay. Like, sign here. We'll go get other people's money. We'll use the phase 2 to start working with you today, funded, and you can. Basically, we build a relationship with that customer, and you become the incumbent. So, next year, when it's the next fiscal year, and they have their own budget, they've already been working with you for a year. They've already adopted your solution, and so now it's a no-brainer. They want to transition you to go into phase 3 traditional contract using their own dollars. That because we bridge the gap between today and next fiscal year for that customer. And so that anyway, that's phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 3 is basically just a justification. It's not a contract. Some people say, "Well, I want I want a phase 3 contract vehicle." Well, all it is it's a traditional contract. It's a purchase order. It's a task order. It can be an IDIQ. It can be a BPA. It can be a cost plus. It can be firm fixed price. It's not really a contract type. It can apply to all contract types. All it is it's a justification to go sole source. So when I'm filling out my JNA, my justification approval document, I'm going to check the box that says, "Hey, this is authorized by statute," because it's SBIR, and that's actually it's in statute that I have to go to the maximum extent practical. I have to go sole source to a company that's won a SBIR SITR before. Congress mandated that hey, if a small business, we funded a phase 1, phase 2 SBIR, and there's any federal entity that has a requirement that matches that solution, they should go sole source to that small business for that solution to the maximum extent practical. So there's obviously reasons why they might not go sole source, but they should. And if they don't, they got to write a letter to the SBA explaining why they didn't award the small business a contract. But that's what a phase 3 is. It's saying I'm going direct to this small business because the work derives, completes, or extends work that's already been done on a phase 1 or phase 2. And so that's what a phase 3 sole source contract is. And it's using non-SBIR dollars. So it's customer money, and meaning it's the government customer's own dollars. And there's really no limit on the value or how many phase 3 contracts you can have at one time. Did I confuse your audience?
You did a great job. I think it's, you want to cut this video recording and put that on the website, because that's probably the best description of SBIR I've heard so far. So I think people that don't understand what you just said should probably not do business with DoD anyways. So all right. So you talk about SBIR, but what is a STTR? I think people don't really understand the difference.
Okay, yeah. So SBIR and STTR are almost identical programs. They have different pots of funding. So STTR has about 1/10 of the funding as the SBIR program. But what makes the STTR program different is that it mandates you have to have a nonprofit partner, a research institute, be a subcontractor, and they have to receive 30% of the work share, meaning 30% of the cost of the contract before profit. So basically, it's a SBIR or STTR, but you're mandated you have to bring on this subcontractor, and that subcontractor has to be a nonprofit. It can be a university, a lab. I've seen nonprofit accelerators be approved, and those kinds of things. And so it's the same. Otherwise, it's the same program. So you have a phase 1, $75K. They're talking about making it go maybe higher, so that small business isn't really taking a haircut if they go the STTR route. Then they have a phase 2, which is 12 months, and it's typically around the $1.25 million mark. But it's the same work. So it's on you to go find a nonprofit partner to apply to STTR. It is a underutilized program, in my opinion. I think there's a lot fewer companies that apply to STTR than apply to SBIR, and there's a couple reasons why. Number one, they don't want to go through the hassle of going and finding a nonprofit partner or a university. But number two, when you do find a nonprofit partner or university, there's it has to be an IP agreement. Hey, we're going to go win the SBIR or the STTR together. Excuse me. And things are going to be developed. Who's going to own those things? And so you have to work that out with your nonprofit partner. And some universities are easier to work with than others when it comes to IP agreements and allocation of rights and that kind of thing. So for those two reasons, it's kind of an underutilized program. But as a result, it's much higher probability of win. The last round I talked about 2,000 proposals going SBIR route. Usually we see around 400 proposals go the STTR route, and you see about 1 in 4 selected is what our data shows.
Unfortunately, we got passed on both the SBIR and STTR for our stage on phase 1, but that's okay.
Well, you weren't working with us yet, so
that's right. There was pre you guys, so
yeah,
that's fine. So okay, so you described the process, right? We found a customer, we found money. How do we accelerate the acquisition to move at the pace of relevance for our warfighter? Is it just about understanding all these vehicles and using them, or what's missing also on the acquisition side for people to really move fast?
Yeah. Well, so I think I'm going to take the 1,000,000-page federal acquisition regulation, or maybe it's 1,000,000 words. I don't remember, but it's a massive document. Take the FAR, and I'm going to compress it into 3 basic tools. So I'm really oversimplifying things here, but a contracting officer, believe it or not, wants to go fast. Almost every KO I met, did care about the mission, and they did want to get the job done. So they have basically 3 different tools in their toolbox to use when they want to do business. First one is to go public. They can take a requirement and put it out on BetaSAM or where everybody can Google and find it. The problem is only about 10% of requirements or budget goes that direction, goes public. And the reason is because it takes too long. And then whenever I post something publicly, I have to put it out there for a mandatory number of days. Then I get a ton of proposals. So I got to evaluate every single proposal and then make my selection. And then I'm going to have to defend that selection. Usually there's protests and stuff involved with those public solicitations. So all that does is drag out the acquisition. So that's why it's nobody's favorite thing to do is go public. But that's about where 10% of budget or government requirements go. The problem is that 10%, that tip of the iceberg, is the only thing that startups can see when they go out and they Google government work. Like they can't see the other 90% of requirements, 90% of the budget until post-award, and some sort of announcement has been made that this contract. So it's 90% of the budget and requirements are not visible to startups. And so here's why, because the other two avenues that a contracting officer has is the largest one is I call it private solicitations. You won't find that term in the FAR, but that's what I bucket IDIQs, which is indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contracts, BPAs, blanket purchase agreements, BOAs, GSA schedules, all that. I'm going to put into what I call private solicitations, because these are catalog type contracts that only like the special few vendors have access to. Basically, government puts it out for, and they pick a cool kid list of vendors that they think can solve the problem, or that they fit within this catalog. And that can vary. It can be one company, it can be 5, it can be 20, but it's usually not a ton. And the reason is because whenever I want to go and purchase something off that catalog, I don't want to get 100 proposals. I want to get maybe 5 qualified proposals, evaluate them all, and then make a selection, and it moves a lot faster. When I put together an IDIQ or some kind of catalog type contract, I can set the rules, the parameters there. I can say, hey, you can't protest this under $10 million. So I can make really fast, sub $10 million contracts, and that sort of thing. So that's why it's kind of a preference for contracting officers to go that way. And we see about 80% of requirements or 80% of budget is spent on that kind of non-public private solicitation catalog type contracts. And so the problem is, for a startup, you can't see those requirements that are coming out on those contracts unless you're partnered with somebody who already has an IDIQ, BPA, or catalog contract, and they receive the RFP. Then you can see it. So you either partner with them and take lower margins by doing that, or you have to wait a number of years until you're able to bid and get on one. But you typically have to have past performance to win an IDIQ or catalog contract. So even then, it's a little bit out of reach for most companies. So IDIQs, BPAs is where about 80% of budget is spent, because it is faster. We typically see awards between 3 to 9 months, maybe 6 months, because you can move a lot quicker as a contracting acquisition shop when you're purchasing off an IDIQ. The third way, and this is by far the fastest way, is sole source contract. Sole source contracts that I've seen, some get awarded in 2 weeks. Some of the larger ones maybe take 90 days, but relatively very fast when it comes to government contracts. The problem is, you're not supposed to go sole source. FAR says, to the maximum extent practical, compete everything. That's how you get the best price. And so you have to have some kind of justification to forego competition, to basically exempt, to be competition exempt. And so there's different programs. A lot of them are mostly for small business, but some of them are, like national security need. Like there's some major natural disaster event that I need to move really fast to save lives. I can use that, justification. Maybe it's there's only one vendor for this. Like no one else in the world makes this product, and so it's by name only sort of thing. Or there's others, and so those are reasons I can go sole source, and that's why we see about 10% of budget go that direction. Is it's very fast, and you can find a way to go sole source. And contracting officers, everybody loves that because they want to get good, they want to get the requirement, solved. They want to get the customer, the DoD end user, what they need, and they want to get it to them as fast as possible. SBIR provides a sole source justification. So if you are a SBIR sitter winner, either program, you have this phase 3 sole source justification. So that's a great way to do that. The problem there is it requires this Herculean business development effort. Like as a startup, as a small business, it's not on the contracting officer to maintain a list of who has sole source rights. It's your job as a startup to tell the contracting officer, hey, that requirement is sole sourceable. I've got a SBIR for that. And so the onus is on the small business to tell the government that they have a justification to go sole source. And that's a problem because a lot of startups don't dedicate enough time or resources to business development. You've got to get a hold of the engineer, the actual requirement owner, and you got to tell them, hey, my product exists. It can solve your problems, and it's sole sourceable. And so then now they know that's a way they can go sole source to you. So that's a little bit out of reach for startups sometimes, but that's a lot of where we play. We won 160 million last year. About 76 million of that was traditional contracts or traditional non-SBIR funding. And so a lot of that was sole source. We're doing the BD, we're finding a customer, and then we're trying to go, phase 3. And so that's an option too. And I think that, to answer your question, now I find a customer who's got money. How do we accelerate the acquisition? Well, it's trying to narrow down what contract vehicle can we use that's the fastest. And obviously sole source is the fastest. It takes work to get it, but that's what it takes. I can talk all day about the FAR and other challenges, but I think that answers your question.
Nah, this is great. This is awesome. So you mentioned some of them, right? But what would be some of the pitfalls to avoid when companies start applying for a SBIR?
Yeah.
First, not using SBIR Advisors is one mistake we made when we as Sage apply for the phase 1. So that's one to avoid right there. But what else?
Yeah, no, it's I think it's understanding the program and understanding what they look for. The biggest pitfall is companies coming into the SBIR program, and they don't really understand the purpose of the SBIR program, or they don't understand what they're trying to accomplish. In other words, I said it before, but the SBIR program isn't here to fund you. It's here to fund requirements for the DoD, to fund the warfighter problems. And so you gotta put everything in that lens. But also, they want to see that you have a plan to get out of SBIR. AFWorks and all the other SBIR agencies, just like us, we're trying to get tech to the warfighter. We don't want to put you on the SBIR Ferris wheel and keep you there forever. We want you to graduate the program and get on to traditional contracts. And so you've got to articulate, what is your plan? What is that path out of SBIR into non-SBIR dollars, non-SBIR dollars? And that's a great, you got to have that in your proposal of how you plan to do that. Go from phase 1, phase 2, maybe a phase 2B, and then to program a record, basically to that far. And what is your thought process? How do you articulate that? And so one of the things that I also see is that the companies, are coming to the open topic with very, very early stage technology. And that's not really where the open topic was meant for. Like, open topic is there to adapt commercial solutions to get them to the field faster and to have a higher transition rate into non-SBIR. So they're looking for TRL, 5 or higher. Kind of you can't bring something to them that's too ready, like a TRL 9. This is being used by government already. Like, I'm just trying to get SBIR dollars for it, because that's not a good use of R&D funds, and you're going to get disqualified. And so you've got to show, hey, I'm properly using R&D dollars or R&D funds, and so there's some kind of adaptation going there. So
would you say if a product is well built and TRL 9, you could still use SBIR for like new features, right? Or new.
Yeah. Well,
new
yeah.
stuff
So
into the product, right?
exactly, and that's part of it is articulating that, hey, there is a product development roadmap, and we think the product development, the first mile of that product development roadmap, and whatever those development items are, could benefit the DoD, and I'd like to get government funds to help develop it that far, help develop my commercial product to that point. So you might have something that's super ready to go, but you want to have some stretch goals that you're trying to fund with SBIR.
And that could include features that are DoD specific, right? The product could be very well built for the commercial side, but there are some things that need to be done just because of some DoD stupid, requirement or whatever. And so you could have piece of that work be part of the engagement. Of course, it shouldn't just be, hey, I'm going to fund the work I should be doing to do business with DoD with a SBIR, but I guess a piece of it could be fine, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, so here's a common pitfall that you just talking remind me of is like a lot of companies put in ATO, an ATO, and they see that as something I need to do to my commercial product. I got to adapt it to meet these cybersecurity requirements that only the government has, right? And you would think that that qualifies as something that an adaptation that I could get funded with SBIR. But the SBIR gods don't see it that way. They see ATO as kind of a defined, known process, and so that's not risky. There's no technical risk in getting an ATO, other than there's a lot of business risk in getting
There's
an
a lot of
ATO.
risk, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
But I
agreed.
guess the piece that would adjust like the product to do FIPS compliance and like do technical changes to get an ATO, I guess that could apply, but not the actual paperwork process.
Yeah, that's not to say we haven't gotten ATOs funded or used funds from SBIRs to do the steps to gain an ATO, but you can't come out and say flat out like I'm going to use 1 million of the government's dollars to ATO my product, because that's not a good use of R&D funds in their eyes. Naive or not, I
Right.
think that's the pitfall.
It's not really R&D, I guess. So
Yeah,
but
exactly.
if you had to completely redesign your base OS because it's not FIPS compliant and you have to readjust the product and it's some research there, well, that could be that would be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Talk to what are the challenges that I'm going to have to completely move the infrastructure and recode things to
Right.
work on.
Like make your product air gap, for example. That would be
Yeah.
fine.
Yep. Yep. And talk to those things and
Which
get,
many companies have been helping over the years. We've done 750 companies. We helped Accredit in DoD, and so many of the problems is, hey, I'm using dependencies that are SaaS based, and now we have to move to an air gap, concept, and it's a ton of work, and there's some research there to figure it out and make it work. So that would be
yeah.
a good example. Yeah. So what's the current success rate? Clearly, we were on the wrong side of the coin when we did the phase ones. So what's the usual rate? What people should expect?
Yeah, so I want to talk about this a little bit because from the numbers, right? Nationwide, the average win rate of SBIR is about 19%. It's a little less than 20%. We've obviously got higher success rates. We've got a lot of reasons why, but one thing that contributes to this is understanding what are they looking for in a good proposal. So the first thing they're going to look at, especially open topic, is the commercial success of the company. I can't judge a company that has a satellite versus a company that has, healthcare product. Two totally different technologies. So how do I rack and stack these companies? Well, they look at their commercial traction. What is your revenue or what is your investment? And now that's kind of the one thing all companies have in common. They rack and stack them based on that. So I want to dig into that a little bit. So we had 72 wins across 51 companies in this last phase one round, and about 86% of them had revenue, and the average or the median revenue was about 2.1 million annually.
Of commercial revenue, you mean?
Correct. Yeah. And about 55% of the winners had VC funding, and the median VC raise was about 7 million in VC. And so I give you those numbers so you kind of get an idea.
Why do you think people care about VC funding? I always wondered because first, I'm not raising money with that stage, and I don't think it's a stamp of approval of any value. But why do you think people think of it as a
Sure.
positive thing? I guess.
Well, sure. So only about 55% had VC. So the emphasis was more on revenue than VC, but
Right.
but how they're using it is basically to judge the technical merit of your technology. If I don't have an engineer or scientist on staff that can tell me that your tech has merit, then I'm going to look to other outside validation of its
Right.
merit. I'm going to
But
look
revenue would be number one over. I mean, a VC could be
right,
completely wrong, and in
right.
fact,
Well, so
you see a lot of
exactly.
fun, of VCs, continuing to raise money forever and never make a buck. So
Right. Well, so all 7 of the companies that didn't have revenue that won in February, all were VC backed, and so it's basically just
I see.
showing like how are you going to sustain yourself.
Right.
If they don't want to award a contract and spend taxpayer dollars on a company that's not going to be around by the time the phase 2 rolls
Right.
around in October.
Right.
So you
Right.
got to kind of look at it through that lens too. But also another reason VC is important for I think SBIR program is as a motivator to engage American capital. There's this big push from our near peers that are making investments into technology companies in the United States. And if you take a check from China, Iran, Russia, you're going to be debarred from doing business with the government. And so, but those term sheets are really favorable. You can't really fault a company for trying to, take out a foreign investment. So, having VC investment is a way of trying to domesticate that funding. So try to keep technology here and looking internally at U.S. based VCs and an SBIR program for funding rather
People
than
forget often that US based VCs got money from China anyways, but that's a different problem. And they've often very well hidden through 4 or 5 layers of nonsense, and we don't even know. So
yeah, I'll let OSI shake all that
but
out.
your ratio, I mean, from what you're describing, your ratio was like in the what, 70%, right? How
Yeah.
much was the
No, so we had 72 wins across 51 companies, and that's that's actually about 66% success rate.
Yeah, that's that's pretty, that's like three times the national average, right?
Yeah. So, and like I
It's
said, a
amazing.
lot of that is because we have really great people, all former contracting guys that get it, or acquisition folks from around the DoD who understand it, and then we have great technology we're working with. So that really was what helped contribute.
And that's
But
for phase ones, right? So what about phase? I mean, phase twos. There's a way to do it direct to phase two, but those are gambling, right? I mean, I think it's like in the 10% range, or what is the
yeah,
direct to
direct to
phase two?
phase twos are nationwide they're a lot lower. It's like less than 10% success rates. We the same thing there. We're about tripling that, but we don't overlook phase ones because phase ones transitioning to phase twos have a much higher probability of win than a direct to
Right.
phase two. So you always
Sure.
want to try
You
and
want to
pick
do
up.
both.
Yeah, and that you get more bites of the apple that way. So if you're only doing direct to phase twos, you have 2 opportunities per year, versus if you do open topic phase 1 to phase 2, and you do the direct phase 2s on both the SBIR and STTR side, you're going to have like 6 opportunities or more to apply to phase 2 every year. So you're just kind of opening up the pipeline there a little bit. So, but yeah,
And
direct
you
phase
said
2.
phase one is how many times per year? So when could I apply again for phase one? I guess.
So phase ones right now, open topics are two cycles. So they've got a summer cycle and a winter cycle. So the next phase 1 cycle is coming up they're due in September for Air Force, Space Force. Navy is due in August.
So we have to do September with autumn. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna do.
Well, we're going to find out results from the
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 phase
May
two
round.
before.
Those phase 2s,
Right.
we'll know that I think in the next 4 weeks or so.
It's supposed to be July something, yeah.
Yeah.
But with my luck, we're not gonna get it. So then it's gonna be the phase one again. So
Well,
phase
don't
one
say
is what
that.
I'm.
Yeah. Knock on some wood.
That being said, we did a great job, and we
Yeah.
had great sponsor, and the Air Force CIO signed it, and I mean it's interesting. I guess if we don't get it, I don't know who would get it, but that's a
Right.
different. You never
Right.
know how you get assessed.
Yeah, and you're talking to the other kind of criteria they look at too. So the first one we talked about was finance, like what was your commercial traction look like. Second thing they look at is defense need. How important or strategic is this to the Department of Defense? And recognize that you're proposing against some kind of Star Wars technology. We got a robot dog with a sniper rifle on its back. Like, tell me how your technology is more important than that to the DoD. And the way you can do that is have a fat stack of letters of support that validate that, hey, look, these are all these people from around the DoD that are saying they want this and they needed this yesterday, and this is really important. And so having that, I mean, phase twos, for example, everyone has to have a customer memorandum for a phase two, and that's the bare minimum. What you want on top of that is a bunch of letters of support from everyone across the DoD. Said, yeah, I'm going to do a phase two project with this office, but look at who else can benefit from this. Like, this is a ton of organizations that are really interested in the success of this technology and then this phase two moving forward. And so that's how you validate that this is a higher defense need than some of those other Star Wars technologies.
So, when you look at our use case with the phase one, it was interesting because with a SBIR and STTR, same scope of work, right? Same stuff. One got declined because we were not strong enough on the commercial side, but great in defense. And one got declined because we were strong in commercial, but not strong in defense. So opposite, right, assessments of these two SBIR and STTRs. So clearly there's a human issue there, right, in terms of lack of uniform assessment and understanding of the tech, and it's tough, right? We're asking a lot of airmen to review stuff. They have zero background, and particularly when they start touching the tech stuff. How do you think we could solve that on the government side too? I mean, definitely when I asked Sage itself to grade the paper based on the criteria of acceptance, we passed and we should have been selected. So, that's interesting. But and I would argue, of course, there's always bias in the bar, but I would think there's less bias in the human. But that's an interesting debate. And we see some contracting officer and teams now in acquisition use Sage to grade bids. So what do you think could be done to do better when it comes to reviewing technology, as technologies as complex as some of the stuff you see in the SBIR?
Yeah, so I think one thing that they've done that hopefully bears fruit is they've limited the number of proposals to one per cage code per solicitation.
That's the first time. That's the first time this happened, right? For this.
They did it back in 2020, 2019 was limited to one per company. Then they opened it up, and definitely everybody took advantage of that. And now they ratcheted it back down. So I think that that's a good thing because, I mean, just in the directed phase twos in May, we saw about a 40% reduction in number of proposals that were submitted. And I think that means they don't have to get so many volunteer evaluators, and they can, have a more
remove the noise.
Yeah, and hopefully remove some of the bias there too.
And what about training, right? I mean, I just feel like, would automation, would AI and stuff like that could start bringing some value there? Do you feel like assessing stuff with AI? I mean, when I did it with Sage, I got great results both to review, human resource candidates, so jobs, job applicants, and then also when it comes to reviewing and grading things based on very well-defined acceptance criteria, which we have, right? That's the beauty of these programs. They're not just winging it. They have very well-defined set of rules, and so you would think AI could do a good job at doing some of that, and then of course human validating, right? I'm not saying you remove the human from the loop, but maybe help accelerate that.
Absolutely. I think that's an awesome suggestion because the root cause of all of these, lag times, the reason it takes contracting officers so long to award a contract isn't, they're slow or lazy. It's bandwidth issues. So there's only so many hours in a day and they have so many competing priorities. So if I would love to maximize the amount of automation as possible because then you can get a lot more done a lot faster. So absolutely, I'd be a huge proponent of that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, when you look back and, I mean, we talk a little bit about the next let's quickly go again on the dates, right? We just
Sure.
had the directed phase 2 stuff. People missed that, right? So now what's next after? So they September is at phase 1s, and can people
Yep.
do direct to phase 2s, or when is the next direct to phase 2, or what's the timeline?
Yeah, so I don't want to skip over. There is some proposals going in this month in June for
The
special
Navy,
topics. Yeah,
is there a
well,
Navy thing?
all agencies have special topics, and then Navy has an open topic opening in July and due in August. Then Air Force Space Force has phase ones opening in August, due in September. And so there's two open topic phase one opportunities this summer: the Navy in August and the Air Force Space Force in September. And then the next direct to phase two is going to be opening in October, due in November. Of course,
And can
all
you
they
apply
do is
again if you get declined and you apply again? Can you just apply
yeah.
again and try again with the same stuff, or you have to change the stuff?
Well, they update some of the forms every time, so just make sure you're using the most current versions of
Right, but
everything.
but I
But
mean on
yeah,
the concept of the idea, or the work could be the
right.
same. It's just you just try again.
Yeah, and try to incorporate some of the feedback you get from.
Do you get? I was not impressed by the feedback we get, though. Right? I mean, it's very
Well,
light.
phase one is they're not really required to do it during phase one. It's nice that they give you at least a little bit of an
So
insight.
so
Yeah,
phase 2, they're gonna have to do more than that.
the phase two, they do a better job of giving you a little bit more look behind the curtain of
Even
how.
for the direct to phase 2s, right?
Yeah, so you should
Okay.
get better feedback on a phase two than you would a phase one.
Yeah, that was pretty effectively one was contradicting the other one. So it's
Well,
literally opposite.
they
So
still use the same kind of like rating scale. Like they have three criteria, and you're rated 1 through 5 on each one. Kind of, and of course they don't call it 1 through 5. It's like acceptable, excellent,
right,
outstanding, and that kind of thing.
and we
But
got the opposite result from the SBIR and STTR. It was interesting.
right, right. But
So
with
that
phase
clearly
two, they give you a
means
little bit
it's
more.
very subjective, right? I mean, it
Yeah,
was the same proposal, but completely different
right.
gradings for each proposal.
Yeah,
So
which is
opposite to each other. Yeah.
it's totally possible because they get about 300 volunteers, and
Right.
everybody.
It's just the lottery.
Yeah, it's a lottery of who you get as an evaluator. Pretty much, they say they try to narrow it down, but it's an imperfect system of trying to get it in front of the right people.
I mean, it's not the people's fault. I don't blame the
Yeah,
people. I just think, we need technology to come and help do better, right?
right.
Because let's face it, people, if you're supposed to grade a aircraft maintenance thing, and then an AI tool and some DevSecOps tool or whatever, I mean, it's just impossible to know everything, right? So
Yeah, no,
it's great.
of course, there's always room for improvement. I could be critical of the open topics all day, but I think they've done a fantastic job of advancing the state of technology for the warfighter. Things like Platform One wouldn't exist today without the SBIR
No.
open topics. And I think that I wish it was around when I was in the Air Force. I think they've done a phenomenal job of getting great tech to the warfighter.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. All right, so what's next? What's the next big thing?
So this fall is TACFI StratFi coming out. So if you've already had a phase one or a phase two award, you may be eligible for what they call TACFI or StratFi programs, which are matching programs coming out this fall. On the TACFI side, it matches from 375K up to 1.8 million. And I'm telling these numbers are based on the previous solicitation. I don't have the new solicitation yet. I don't have any special access. But based on last year's rules, so we're looking to see 375K up to 1.8 million of matching dollars. What does that mean? Well, it means if you've got 1.8 million of non-SBIR funds, or you have 1.8 million in investor funds, you can go apply for 1.8 million of SBIR funds through the TACFI. And so that's how it matches dollar for dollar outside funding. So it's either government customer funding or investor funding. On the StratFi side, it starts at 3 million, goes up to 30 million. So you can get 15 million in StratFi dollars if you have 15 million from government and 15 million from investors. So it's really a 1-to-2. It's like a 1-to-1 match actually of investor dollars, but it's for every one investor dollar, you have to have 50 cents in government customer, and then you get 50 cents in SBIR dollars. This is the way I've always explained it. We did a number of those last year where we got the full maximum extent or maximum SBIR funds from StratFi. And so it's an effort. You have to get 30 million in investor, then get 15 million from a customer to get to 15 million from SBIR. Or they have what they call the government only matching. So if you don't want to raise dollars or outside capital, you don't want to sell equity, you can go out and get 30 million in government dollars, and they will match it with 15 million in SBIR dollars. Now, there's a number of ways of doing that, through phase threes, through other agency MIPRs, and trying to get funding together. One of the ways that we found to be successful is actually getting appropriations dollars. And so we work with a number of lobbying firms that have helped our clients get written into an NDAA item, have that money dropped onto a customer that they've been working on phase two with, and use that funding as matching dollars for a StratFi.
That sounds like a pretty big, heavy lift. Must be
it's a lot of work,
painful.
But yeah,
it's a lot of money.
Really good outcome. Yeah,
that's right. The matching thing drives me insane with the VCs. I don't know why we keep thinking VC money is good, but whatever. I would rather self-fund my stuff and not raise a dime. But people that keep raising money just end up not focusing on the customer and spending more time with investors than with their own customers. And I just hate all of it, and they forget about breaking even, and they keep raising, it's endless raising money forever. I sit on a few boards, obviously, and I see that all the time, and many have yet to make a buck, and they're allegedly unicorns, and I just don't understand it. This is why the economy is going to implode. It's just completely unrooted on reality and the real life that we used to have, 30 years ago before IT nonsense. But it's just interesting. So, okay, I have to ask you that question. You're a little bit biased. I'm very biased. But how do you see AI, particularly generative AI, change the acquisition landscape?
Well, it's huge. So some of the data I gave you today, like based on our how much VC money has been raised by clients, what's their revenue and stuff like that, was unstructured data that I dropped into Ask Sage and said, summarize these things for me. And I was able to pull, because normally I had the numbers, memorized in prior pitches, but I wanted to bring your audience the freshest data I had. And so I put that together in about 10 minutes using your tool. So Ask Sage has been phenomenal for helping, like you said, with data, a lot of automation there, but also on the proposal side. So we've actually, used it to help fill out some sections of proposals where we need it's great for getting the juices flowing. If you obviously any LLM, you have to double check, verify that everything that it's spitting out is accurate.
But if you do provide the information, it's going to be right. That's
right.
Exactly. If you give it the insights, it's not going to make it up. That's right.
Yeah.
So extracting, computing, all that stuff, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And you've seen also how we used it for the direct to phase 2 with Autumn to write the stuff in hours versus days, right?
Exactly. It's a
massive amount of time.
Huge time saver, and manpower is the most constrained resource, not just on the commercial side, but on the government side. And so anything we can do to help save manpower.
So you don't have an excuse not to take customers on now, because with Sage, you can multiply by 5 your volume. So you don't need to hire more people. You can just have them use Sage, and all the people that are going to reach out to you today from the show, you can now take them as customers because now you have more bandwidth.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Absolutely.
It's just velocity. It's just a velocity thing. It's just when I look at cyber documentation, ATO, acquisition, RFPs, a lot of people, contracting officers, are using it to grade bids too. I see now. We see also a lot of people using it to write RFIs, RFPs, summarize, extract. Congress using it to finally read the bills, or at least extract the information they want from the bills that they don't read anyways, to find insights like how much money are we spending on climate change. It doesn't have to say climate change. That's the beauty, right? It knows what climate change is about, so it will find also stuff that's being spent without mentioning climate change. It's pretty cool.
And I mentioned it early on, but our main focus is business development and connecting with great customers like Cody Paul, who I see in the chat. So he's awesome. Everybody should know him. But like our focus is in like business development, going out and building these bridges between client and government. And the more time we can spend doing that, and the less time we can spend doing administrative and even on the proposal front, the better. Yeah.
Yeah, and you get to multiply the chances too by having more engagements.
Yep,
Makes a lot of
absolutely.
sense, yeah.
Yep.
So, what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night is my people. I want to make sure that we have a great team. Because okay, so let me back up a little bit. Every company says their people is their biggest asset, but for a consulting firm, like it's 100,000% true. Our people are our brand. I mean, they're who you work with every day, and so we want to have the most qualified, the most professional people I can put in front of you. And so I care about making sure this is a place they want to work, and they want to, they care about the mission. They wake up every day excited to work with our team and work with our clients to get great tech to the warfighter. And if the culture is bad, or if they don't want to be here and they just there's a exodus out of SBIR Advisors, then we don't have a consulting firm anymore. So what keeps me up at night is keeping my people well taken care of. And your tool's done great at that too. Like I don't want to burn the candles at both ends and burn out my team, because then that leads to burnout and turnover, and that you don't want that. And so, the more time I can save them, less late nights hours they have to spend, the better, because then this is a better place to work. And, so yeah, what keeps me up at night is my people.
You're getting too excited. I promise you, most people love working at SBIR Advisor. I mean, they only complain about the CEO.
Yeah,
That's
he's the worst.
That's a biggest complaint. No, people love it. I'm not hearing anything. So you can sleep. You can sleep just fine.
Good.
I think people love it, and you've done a great job. And I think the retention talks for itself. I mean, you don't ever want to be complacent, and I get that, but you also don't want to lose sleep over nothing. So
no, yeah,
you don't want to overthink it.
Yeah,
I think you need to give them more stage. That's for sure. But I'm biased, so
yeah.
So they can sleep a little bit more, because I see Autumn sending me emails at 1 a.m. in the morning. So,
yeah. Well,
she never stops.
Yeah,
I'm awake and I answer the emails, but that's not very common. But
people really love working with our team, and that's a huge part of it. I mean, our average client stays with us over 12 months. Like the average engagement is longer than 12 months, and that's unheard of. Like, who hires a SBIR firm and works with them for 2-3 years? Well, our clients do, because they're getting the value, they're getting the business development, and they've got a great relationship with the rock stars on our team. So I'm excited about that.
That's right. All right. So a couple of questions from the public. So Kumar was asking, how do we find the opportunities for phase 1 and beyond? Where do people go? I mean, of course, they can reach out to you guys.
Yeah,
but I'm sure there's an official place to go.
Yeah, so SBIR.gov is kind of the repository of all the different agencies, and then from there you'll find links to the different agency groups. So like most of the non-DoD agencies use like grants.gov, but DoD uses
We don't like to do like everybody else.
No, we're different, but I do like
we're special.
Oh my gosh, special. I love DSIP. It's called DSIP portal. If you go to DoD SBIR STTR.mil, or you just Google DoD SBIR, it'll probably be the first page that shows up. That is such a great portal compared to grants.gov, which is a nightmare to work with. But DSIP has come a long way. I remember back in 2020, 2019, it crashing all the time, and it's
with the traffic during the peak times.
Yeah. Shout out to those REI systems guys; they've really improved it, and it's.
I mean, it's like an anecdotal volume of users compared to a Twitter, but yeah.
I think a lot of that is to you, because they moved it to platform 1, and now I can scale and have a ton of people on it. So yeah.
It shouldn't really not be rocket science. It's not that many users, okay? I mean, it's a lot, but it's nothing, right? I mean, compared to internet websites, it's like, running error, But I'm glad we're able to figure that out. So, that's a question also we got on Twitter is, Do you also help with non-DoD, or is there also non-DoD cyber opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. A huge other source for us is like NASA, Department of Energy, National Science Fund is for a little bit lower TRL level companies. But yeah, there's 11 agencies. DoD is just one of them that has cyber sitter programs. So my guys are all former acquisition officers. So we're all used to like federal acquisition and traditional contracts. And then I train them on cyber. So arguably we're better at non-cyber stuff and going after traditional opportunities. But we're cyber's in our name, and we've become
Yeah,
experts.
you kind of messed up with the company name there, so
Yeah,
you kind of shot yourself in the foot right there. But
yeah. Well, it's a great front door. I mean, yeah.
that's definitely a great way to get the clicks on Google for
Yeah.
cyber. But,
Well, they do. They come to us
you kind of
for
put yourself in a
SBIR.
niche market at the same time, but that's good.
Yeah,
That's
it's a great way drug. They come to us for cyber, and then they stay with us for the traditional contracts.
Yeah, that makes sense. Which is painful, which is a nightmare. I just hate all of it. I mean, I've never seen something so ridiculous between all the people making money on your back left and right, and just like every partner you have to have, and everybody is taking a piece of the action. Then you wonder why, it costs 10x to buy anything in DoD. That's just right. It's just the whole system is broken. We made it so difficult to buy stuff. It's insane. But anyway, so Jimmy had a question, but I have no clue about any of these acronyms. So how do you envision the future GSA, RIO, JWAC
Yeah,
will affect the cyber potential usage and the DoD industry as a whole? I don't know what that is. So
yeah. So the GSA Rio GWAC or government wide acquisition, or maybe I'm getting that acronym wrong, but it's one of these. They're
yeah, I think that's what it
GSA.
is. Government-wide acquisition contract.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so Rio is GSA's Phase 3 IDIQ. It's going to have a huge, massive ceiling. It reminds me somewhat of the old ABMS IDIQ, if anybody remembers that one. But it's going to be like $1 billion ceiling that's for companies that have Phase 3 justification, can go very easily get added onto that contract. And then GSA will manage that IDIQ contract. So hopefully that speeds up acquisitions a lot, because government customers will be able to turn to GSA and say, I don't know how to do a Phase 3, you do it for me, and GSA can award a task order off of that IDIQ super fast. And so right now GSA does a great job. They have a AAS office, advanced acquisitions. I'm not sure what the AAS stands for.
Yeah.
The GSA AAS office awards Phase 3. So if you have a contracting officer that, or actually we've run into this where we've had government customers
Assisted acquisition service, by the way.
Thank you. They don't know who their contracting officer is. They've got money, but they don't know who's responsible for contracts. So we're like, well, GSA can award that. So what they MIPR funds to GSA, and GSA awards a Phase 3 contract because that's their bread and butter. They know how to do it. So it's really quick. But yeah, the Rio.
What do you think the impact is going to be on cybers? I guess it's really for phase 3 cybers.
Yeah, it's for Phase 3. So you got to win Phase 1 or Phase 2, and then once you've on one of those, then you'll be able to apply for the Rio IDIQ, which is supposed to come out for RFP sometime later this year, potentially. But they did a road show last year, went around a lot of different bases, educating everyone on the GSA Rio program. I think it's going to be great. Can't wait to see it when it comes out.
There are other Phase 3 GSA things that I heard about. I know Rob Slaughter was telling me about a Phase 3 GSA thing is using for defense unicorns. Is there something else also that I'm confusing this with?
Yeah, they can award Phase 3s today, and they can award IDIQs, BPAs, any kinds of contracts, and they can use the Phase 3 justification to go sole source. So GSA, they're basically a contracting shop for hire. I'm really oversimplifying them, but that's what they do, and they're good at it. So yes, you can have a Phase 3 through GSA right now, but what they're setting up is a massive ceiling, massive IDIQ that anybody can onboard to. That if you've got a SBIR award for. So right now, I think you have to find a customer first, and then bring that customer to GSA to get a phase 3 contract through them. But the Rio is kind of the opposite. You can go to GSA, get the contract first, and then go find a customer.
Yeah. That's the difference. Okay, I missed that part because the tough piece was finding the sponsor, right?
So, right. Yep.
Okay. Well, Sam, I think you've done a great job explaining to the audience here, and lots of people here, both on Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, to explain both the challenges and the pitfalls, but also the benefits of working with DoD. I'm going to leave the last words to you in a minute to say goodbye to everybody. But before that, I wanted to remind everybody that next Tuesday, the 20th at 1 p.m., we're going to get Brian joining us from unstructure.io, bringing all these data ingest into large language models. We use it in Astage to be able to ingest PDFs and Word documents and PowerPoint and so on. So you can thank Brian for bringing all this open source capabilities, and it's integrated into a lot of the ecosystem of generative AI with long chain and so on. And so it's just awesome stuff. We've been helping them also make sure they pay attention to cyber, because AI guys just forget about cyber. It's not important somehow. So they've done a great job fixing some of the CVs and stuff. So next Tuesday, 1 p.m., don't miss it, for people that care about AI, ML, and where this is going when it comes to data and data ingest, and how do we make generative AI more factual and stuff like that. Is pretty amazing what we're able to do now, tapping into data lakes, APIs, and so on. So with that, last words over to you. We gave your 101, and I'm going to put it again here at the banner for people that want to reach out to you, Calendly/Sam Saber, Sam-Saber, to get a 30 minutes one-on-one with you, which is very kind of you. Don't abuse of it, people. Just be nice to Sam, otherwise, you're not going to be happy. But over to you, Sam, for the last words.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been an honor to be on the show. I love what you're doing. You have single-handedly advanced the DoD software readiness from where I saw it in 2016 to where it is today is light years ahead. And so I think that you've potentially saved us from destruction in the next war, and it's thanks to you. So thank you for what you continue to do now outside of government, and thanks for the opportunity to talk on your show. I've talked a lot about our team and how great our consultants are, but I want to shout out to all of our clients. We thank you guys very much. You're who are doing the day-to-day work to create and innovate and to make that the warfighters' lives easier and better. So thank you for all of our clients. And then for potential, if you want to talk more, Calendly links on the bottom, or reach out. My email is sam@SBIRadvisors.com, or you can go to our website, SBIRadvisors.com. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, with that, thanks everybody. See you next Tuesday, and keep up the good work to make sure our kids have a fighting chance at winning against China 20 years from now. Stay safe, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.